Welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. George Wright III here with your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and education. I hope you have had a great week, and just keep in mind the week is not over. There's plenty of stuff to do, and I want to get you started with the Daily Mastermind quote of the day. By the way, if you haven't downloaded the Daily Mastermind mobile app, I'd highly encourage you to do it. We have a bunch of new content that'll be dropping in there as of Monday. So we've got your daily quotes, we've got books, ebooks, audiobooks, meditations, affirmations. Also, the link to the podcast is in there so you don't ever miss a show. And today, the thought of the day is, thoughts are forces. Thoughts are forces. But I want to talk to you today as we get going into the weekend about the topic of resilience. And I want to talk to you about resilience because I believe that in the current economic times that we have and the struggles that people are facing, I think your ability to be resilient is so key. And resilience, it's not just about being able to survive, but it's actually being able to embrace and innovate and be creative and bounce back, but also bounce forward. So I want you to think about the fact of how you deal with challenges in your life. And if you could build up this resilience level so that you could show up and perform at your best, but more importantly, come back in a better, bigger, more efficient way, that's resilience. So, we think of resilience as something that's our ability just to, like I said, deal with adversity. But what I really want you to do is I want you to think about how you can use resilience in your life to actually catapult you forward. And I don't just mean resilience in business. I'm talking about emotional, physical, spiritual, mental, and financial resilience. And so what I wanted to do today is I just wanted to take a few minutes and highlight something I thought might give you some perspective. Researchers have found 14, they call them, and this is some scientific studies that I was looking through, but researchers have identified 14 markers of resilient people. So this would be like characteristics of people that typically are very resilient. And some of these might surprise you. So I want you to think about these characteristics and whether or not you have them, whether or not you can implement them in your life. But there are 14 characteristics or markers of resilient people. Attention to health and good cardiovascular fitness. What do you know? Health happens to be a key marker of resilient people. And notice that they said cardiovascular fitness as well. In other words, having that energy, motion creates emotion, creates energy. Another characteristic is the capacity to rapidly recover from stress. So you need to think about whether stress pulls you down and consumes you or whether you have the ability to deal with it. Because look, we're all going to have stress. We're all going to have things in our life. But the capacity to rapidly recover. Another marker and characteristic is a history of mastering challenges. I think it's also helpful to point out here that the more that you reflect on how you've been able to overcome challenges, the more you'll increase your belief in being able to. Another marker is high coping self-efficiency. This is our belief in our ability to succeed. So you've got to remember that no matter what, you've overcome things in your life. But resilient people have a high coping for self-efficiency, taking care of things and getting back on track themselves. Another marker is disciplined focus on skill development. This is that mundane, we talked about this yesterday actually, I think it was yesterday, the day before, mastering your skills and having discipline to focus on mastering your skills, because obviously the more you master your skills, the more you'll have the ability to be resilient and come back from difficult situations. Another marker is cognitive flexibility. This is an interesting term, cognitive flexibility. It's the ability to reframe adversity in a positive light. So it's your ability to reframe adversity in a positive light. This is your mental ability to change the way you look at things. That's what we kind of talked about on Monday, ironically. Another marker is positive emotion and optimism. Now, I don't know that this is necessarily something people are just born and wired with, although a lot of us feel like we know people that are just, eternal optimists. They're totally positive. But I think that's a muscle you can train as well, positive emotion and optimism. Also, a marker is loving caretakers and sturdy role models. In other words, do you have that ability to be a role model in your life? That might be something to sort of look at. Another marker is the ability to regulate emotions. Emotional mastery is absolutely one of the most important and also one of the most difficult things you can do in life and in business. But the ability to regulate emotions is key. It's a marker of resilient people. Also, a couple of other markers are strong social support and service. Strong social support and service, or altruism. This is just another indicator that you've got to be able to get outside yourself. So many of us get caught up, I think, in the stress and emotions of our own problems. But when you have social support and this altruistic, this attitude of service, right? It's going to be critical for your resilience. A couple more markers left here. Let's see. Of these 14 markers of resilient people, commitment to a valued cause or purpose. This is huge. We always talk about having purpose and passion, lining your skills with your unique talent and purpose. Also, capacity to extract meaning from adverse situations. Meaning from adverse situations. That's there again, that ability to change the way you look at things and find benefits in the difficult and the mundane. And then finally, support from religion or spirituality. That's another marker of resilient people, that they have this connection to spirituality or support from religion. It might be that you just have a support organization that you're part of. So those are the 14 markers of resilient people. And I think if you were to look at each of them, you would probably find some pretty good patterns, characteristics, traits that you can incorporate into your life. But I want to also mention a couple of last things. There's some key characteristics that I believe that you can start to implement and truly increase this muscle, this resilience muscle. And that is, you've got to routinely and ritualistically, am I pronouncing that right? Basically get in the habit of taking time to recharge and recover. You've got to be able to find time to recover. I think this is key to being resilient in life. If you continue to just take the punishment, like Rocky, says, it's not how many times you hit, it's how many times you get hit and get back up. I don't know that that's necessarily true. And I think most successful people would tell you, eventually you're going to get hit enough times, it's going to be hard to get up. Unless you can take some time to recharge, reset, regroup, recover. That is key. You can only take physical punishment or mental or emotional punishment so much without the recovery. The other thing I want to mention is you've got to be willing to learn from feedback. You've got to invite feedback in your life, because the only way to learn and grow is to be open to learning and feedback. And so I think resilient people, I know in my life, when I've been willing to take feedback very openly, I've become more resilient. And then also learn to be flexible. I've got a buddy of mine that owns an improv comedy, a couple of comedy stores around the country. And, he does this improv with business. And I think it's a great, valuable lesson. In fact, I'll try to have Kurt on the podcast. But he does teach a lot of people improv with business, because you have to have the ability to be flexible. That's what improv comedy is you get a couple of topics, you got to kind of, move and jive and come and go with the flow of what the audience is saying and what's happening in your life. And I think that's a great idea, that improv, when it comes to being resilient. So ultimately, I bring up this topic because resilient people are the ones who don't just bounce back, they bounce forward. And I want you to learn and create your ability, your muscle, your habits of being resilient. And if you focus on that, I know it's going to serve you well in your business, in your personal life, in your mental game, your emotional game. And so I think I hope that's something that will bring you some value. And if it has, do me a favor, share the show. Just share the show with somebody that you know, so that we can help kind of share the message and build our community. And it would mean the world to me, and I hope it's some value that's been coming to you every day as well. Anyway, that's my message for today. I hope you have an amazing weekend. Once again, my name is George Wright III. This has been the Daily Mastermind. I'll talk to you on Monday.